Hello, hello, hello. Behind me on the inside of the glass cabinet, you can see my latest drawing of the ET that I saw in the blanket. That is the ET, and I also made a drawing and I'm making a painting out of it on a cardboard box of that same ET in profile. So the nose actually goes up this up, far up. It goes down and then up like that in a curve. That is the nose of that ET, and the eyes are like literally slanted more than 45 degrees, like really, really high slanted. Incredible. And I believe that ET exists. So, and it showed itself in the blanket when I was reviewing a video the other day. So, but anyway, I want to make a video for Madeleine McCann. She's from England, and the story is this for those people that have not heard about Madeleine McCann. I think most people have heard about this story. This is infinitely tragic, heartbreaking story. A couple, Kate and Jerry McCann, with their 3 children. Madeleine was 3 years old, and her 2 siblings, brother and sister, who are twins, that are 1 year younger than Madeleine. And they have been going on these expensive vacations all the time to Mallorca and Spain and Portugal, and they had almost like long-term vacation rental apartments there, and this one vacation rental place seems almost like more like an apartment complex. I don't know what to think of that. I can't make any kind of claims about it. What I say in my videos are my freedom of speech practices and my personal conclusions that I come to, like I think about these cases. I think about a lot of murder cases. I think about abduction cases like this one. And I watch these things over and over. I'm obsessed with it. I watch different people's videos. I try to catch every detail about the cases. I gather different clues on them, and then I think about it like Sherlock Holmes, okay, with that magnifying glass, and I put the puzzle pieces together and I come to my own conclusions. And because I have Asperger's, my brain can think outside of the box, certainly outside of the consensus narrative of society. And when I see certain videos with certain titles, I already know those are paid actors, those are paid collaborators from the human trafficking industry that are trying to mislead this investigation trail. And this is happening with this case even more than with the John Binney Ramsey case. Because what makes this case here so particularly compelling and heartbreaking, particularly for mothers, for dog mothers like myself, or for any mother, okay, is that this is a cold case that law enforcement is covering up, doesn't want to touch, doesn't want to reopen. doesn't want to investigate further, and no body was found. Evidence was planted. She was abducted in 2007 from this vacation rental apartment building at night, somewhere between 9 p.m. and 10 p.m. It was somewhere, I think it was in May, or somewhere around the summertime that they went there. They had sedated all three of their children. They had sedated them to the point where the twins and Maddie did not even wake up from this entire ordeal that was playing out in their apartment. They didn't wake up from that. They were like in a coma or something, like almost like comatose type of level of unconsciousness. I probably not to the degree of operation anesthesia, but so far that they would not wake up from anything. And the parents are doctors. The mother is an anesthesiologist. Okay, take note of that. And they are absolutely involved in this. They didn't murder their child. What I think is they sold her to the human trafficking industry. And that Dr. David Payne, that was traveling with them, together with a whole group of doctors from England, that Dr. David Payne had his eyes, his dirty, filthy, pedo eyes on the little girl already for 2 years. And he even made sexual remarks about her when she was just 1 year old. And they made videos of her with makeup on at age 1 or 2. I mean, that's even worse than John Benet Ramsey, who was like 4 or 5 or 6. That's already absolutely unacceptable. But a 1-year-old child, and I particularly take note of this case because I had trauma from a very early age myself, okay, like one or 1.5, that early. The trauma, when it's that early, it very, very likely is not being memorized in photographic details, or like, it's like event correct detailed memories. Okay, so a child that is traumatized at such an early age will go into some kind of retrograde amnesia about it, and that shuts information out of consciousness. Okay, it's like anosognosia, but it's even more than anosognosia. It is where the brain literally splits in consciousness. Some people have this ability, and I call it an ability. They have the ability to split off into complete different fragments of personality. So they can develop alternate personalities out of a trauma like this. So I believe my mother was one of those. I don't have that ability. I also don't have the ability to go into a denial or anosognosia. For me, it's almost the opposite, how my brain functions. I can't I can't tuck information under the rug and act like it doesn't exist. Okay, my whole personality is about this. I don't forget. It's not that I'm bitter and hold grudges or something, and I suffer from the grudges. No, I'm a very positive person. I try to make the best out of my life. I know this existence is brutal as it gets, okay? And we have to make the best out of it. And I use my art for that, to create my own safe haven, my own paradise. And my art reflects that. My art reflects basically the safety of the womb. So for me, trauma goes so far back that the last time I felt safe was actually in my mother's womb, until she got traumatized while I was in her womb. And that was during the last months of embryonic development, during the 9th month. She got traumatized with the diagnosis about her mother being diagnosed with cancer. I hate that word. I don't like it at all. I try to avoid it, but obviously one has to use language. So, and her mother died when I was like 1 year old or 1.5. So, and that was traumatic for all of us, for me too, because I loved her even though I was a complete toddler and even pre-language. So, but when I look at the photos, I have warm feelings. Okay, so because she welcomed me into existence with open arms, and she was on her way out, and that's very, very, very sad. So it was all traumatic, okay? But what is really extra traumatic and chemically traumatic is when the mother has a trauma while she is pregnant. And the earlier the embryonic development, the more it will actually biologically affect that unborn child. So I believe that Maddie also had trauma pre-birth, and I believe that she also has extrasensory perception, and I always thought there's something struck me about her iris, that she has this discoloration in one of her irises. And I looked this up because I thought this is peculiar. I wonder if there's something about this going on with the iris, with people that have multicolored irises, which I have myself, but you can't see it. My colors in my iris are quite dark, actually, unless the sun shines into it, like brown and dark green. But in her case, she has very light colored eyes, and then has this dark green streak that goes through the iris. And lo and behold, I thought it, I knew it. Okay, there are tribes on this planet that believe that people with multicolored irises have extrasensory perception. And there's an underground trafficking, there's an entire underground society on this planet that most people are not aware of. And this underground society, some people call them reptos. I'm sure that they're all intermixed, and I wonder if there's even one pure-blooded repto here, but that could be, I don't know. But those people, they think differently, so they have they view humans like food or slave or something that they can use, something that enriches them. And that's how they have done it, probably. For thousands, maybe millions of years they have operated like this, okay? And then at some point the human species evolved, and of course they would use them for their own advantage. And this is a theory, but the evidence for that is coming out every day as we speak. Every day more evidence is coming out to back that up, that this is actually happening. Okay, there's an underground cave system, deep underground. I'm amazed that the earth doesn't implode on itself onto those inner cavities. So that's weird. Maybe it's because there is a rock formation that arches over it or something, and probably, there's a lot of molten lava rock that is under the Mother Earth, under the debris of plant material that decomposes and becomes earth soil. So if you dig deep in, you hit bedrock, and then that is basically the overarching canopy of that cave system that's underneath, and it's probably very, very thick and very, very strong. So strong that doesn't matter how much we weigh here on top, it doesn't cave that in. But there are situations occasionally where the ground does collapse and implode, basically. But I wrote a poem for Madeleine, a poem for Maddie, I call it, and I would like to read it. Oh, you beautiful and lovely Madeleine, we dog mothers love you, and we know that your rough journey is not in vain. Oh, you beautiful and lovely Madeleine, the doctor who was after you is suffering, his mind is disconnected, and he is in pain. Oh, you beautiful and lovely Madeleine, the ones you trusted kept you in sedation. The man who bathed you caused the predation. Oh, you beautiful and lovely Madeleine, John Davison Rockefeller was always saying, every man has his price. Does that mean that most people are driven by vice? Oh, you beautiful and lovely Madeleine, your eyes reveal powers beyond the mundane. What are the traffickers hoping for? What would they gain? Did they bring you to underground biolabs? What are they looking for? We need to fill in all information gaps. Oh, you beautiful and lovely Madeleine, underground people made from reptilian seem to think only in terms of utilitarian. They use children like others use food. They probably think that enhances their mood. Oh, you beautiful and lovely Madeleine, I pray to the blue God, the infinite cosmos, to show us the path, the right turns and the right lane. Oh, you beautiful and lovely Madeleine, we need to find you wherever you are, in underground tunnels, anywhere near or far. Blue God, show us the road to finding her soon, no matter where she is held, captive, even on the moon. That's my poem for her. And I made that last night, and I wanted to capture it in this video. I already pasted it under my last video, but I have it in my file for the future because I want to read this again and again because it's a lovely poem and I like it a lot. And nobody watches my videos anyway. It's okay, it is what it is. I want to have the ET in the video. That's important to me. I love that ET. I wish he could come here and rescue Madeleine from that bio laboratory, the bio weapon, maybe neurology lab, whatever they're testing there on her or on other beings. Okay, whatever is going on in there, I think it is beyond your wildest imagination. And that's what I think. I have this funny feeling that she is kept in a bio lab. And probably here in the United States, somewhere out there in Colorado, in one of these gigantic biolabs that spans acres over acres, thousands of acres, and these biolabs are interconnected with tunnels, with like highway tunnels where people go from one to another, spanning thousands and thousands of miles. That's what I think. And I heard that same structure type of thing is happening in the Middle East. That's happening directly under Jerusalem, for example. People have found out, under Turkey even. So, who knows how these underground tunnels are actually interconnected. Maybe going underneath oceans even. Yeah. Who knows? I'm open for it because I don't know what to believe anymore or not to believe, I'm starting to believe it all because the stuff is coming to the surface. Every single day it's coming to the surface. And I think that the parents of Maddie, because of the interviews that I listened to, this lady, Kate, reminds me a lot of my own mother. Okay, so there are a lot of parallels between her and my own mother. And I see the psychology in her. And I'm not demonizing anyone. I see that everyone's ultimately a victim, even the perpetrators are. Even that Dr. David Payne. What a name for this guy, Pain. He is in pain, and he is causing others pain. Because he has never resolved his own pain. He has never, ever introspected or looked into himself or into the truth, into reality. He's a trafficker, he's a pedophile. He sexualizes very, very little children, toddlers. That's a pathology. That's a mental illness. Okay? And society condemns them in a way where, like, this is being condemned and shunned. The reason why they do that is because they themselves are doing it and they don't want to look at it. Okay. Of course, it is atrocious. But if we demonize it and shun it, we shun it literally under the rock. We shun it deep down into the underground cave system. And then it will stay there. Yeah, for sure. It's never going to see the light of day, and there's never going to be healing oxygen blowing on it. Okay? There's never going to be the chance to bring this out and talk about it, actually. And that's exactly what needs to be done. we need to start a conversation about this, okay? And not the demonization. Not this, I see lots of groups, they're demonizing narcissists, they're demonizing the underground people, they're demonizing the demons, the Satanists groups, and so on. It's always like they're being demonized into hell. They're being condemned into hell. They're being pushed into fire and brimstone, and they're being kicked into the garbage can because by the very people that have some shit cooking themselves, obviously. And Sam Wagner said it rightly so, that he thinks there is no empath. But I know where he's coming from with this, because he doesn't trust anyone. He never had reason to trust anyone when he was growing up. He grew up in North Africa. Never be surrounded. He was never surrounded by anyone trustworthy. So that's where he's coming from, and it's tragic. Okay, but I assure you, Sam Wagner, there are trustworthy humans, but they are very, very, very rare. There's a lot of people calling themselves empaths. Everyone is suddenly an INFJ. Yes, everyone. The community of INFJs is so huge. They're like millions of people all of a sudden. Wait a second. Maybe not one of them is a real INFJ, right? Maybe. Or maybe one or two, right? From 10,000. So let's put things into perspective. There's a lot of bragging going on, and that's not very virtuous, obviously. It's a coping mechanism. Okay, my brother is part of that, of course. It's an act out that doesn't get you anywhere. Bragging is not moving you forward. The way we move forward is by actually facing the truth, reality, okay? And people will say, but you are a conspiracy theorist, you believe in all of this crazy stuff. Oh, you even paint ETs. Okay. Yes, that's because I'm open-minded. I am not closed-minded like Paul is. Okay? He is so proud of being an atheist. So proud. No. Everyone else is so stupid and he is so smart. Yeah. Because he's an atheist. Okay. That automatically puts him into the category of 200 IQ. No. It doesn't. No. It does not, obviously. So, of course, the people with the high IQ, the highest IQ person is Elon Musk. Most of those don't believe in very out there type of theories. That's just their nature. They're very skeptical, and you should be. We should be skeptical. And I have done my dues to being skeptical. I have really I've skepticalized through my life for at least 2 decades. So for at least 2 or maybe 2.5 decades, I have lived my life being mad at religious people, and that wasn't getting me anywhere. I had to come to that conclusion myself. So I still think religion is bad, and it should be dissolved, right? It can't be outlawed, because people are never gonna outlaw it, and then they will never quit it's an act out. That's what religion is. Religion is a coping mechanism. It's a psychological coping mechanism. But let's look at it from the angle of psychology and try to understand where people are coming from instead of condemning them. Instead of condemning the narcissists and the braggers and the pedophiles and the criminals. I want to understand them. I really do, My whole life I've been investigating into this on my own, trying to find out what causes people to fall into such psychological disconnect from reality and from what is true and what is compassion and what is love. Okay, because the truth and the true power of the infinite cosmos and everything that evolves in it is love. Okay, that's the only truth, and David Icke's right about that. Love is the only truth. So, but I haven't seen David Icke go through the trouble and think about how we are going to be solving the problems that are there, the problems of criminality and disconnect and the corruption level of governments. He hasn't really drafted up a plan to solve it. And so maybe he can't, maybe his only job is to write a bunch of books, make money on it, so, and be very successful at it also. Books, what his books really are doing, and I think that's why they're being promoted, what his books are really doing is they're really sending an extortion message to society that says, you better shut up and be meek and mild, or the raptors, are gonna come and get you. That's kind of like what I see in his books. Brian Cottingham sent me one of David Icke's books. You must read this. And Brian Cottingham, he's a sweetheart. I'm a real good friend of mine from LA. So, but that was at the time where I was an atheist, and I completely just brushed David Icke off the table as someone who just had an ayahuasca experience. And he did, of course, but then later on, as I did more research, and I am researching always with an open mind. Okay? I'm never going to brush anything off the table anymore. I'm looking deeper and deeper into things. So I had to obviously revise my views on the world. And I had to say, this is bizarre. It is as bizarre as it gets. It is so bizarre and so wild that obviously it seems fake. Okay. And that's what David Icke himself said. He said they're not even, they're hiding in plain sight, basically. Because they know that most people, when they see something wild and bizarre, even if they see it right in front of them, they'll say that can't be true. So it must not be true because of that. Because it's too wild to be true. But unfortunately, it isn't, okay? It's out there, and the underground world is crumbling now, okay? Thank goodness. We're coming to a new era. Every dynasty is crumbling and falling down. At some point, it has always been like this, forever and ever and ever. And that's good, okay? We're entering into a new era, into the era of welcoming truth and introspection and love. And as soon as people introspect, as soon as they are forced, whether through outside circumstances, because they're put in prison, or they're held captive and they don't even have a computer to use, and they have nothing to act out with, or they are put under quarantine, like in a virus outbreak, and they have to stay at home. They can't narcissistically party somewhere. Then they can't act out. Then what? Then they are forced to introspect. They're forced to look at that what the ego wants to run away from. The ego would much rather fall in love with his therapist than face his own issues, right? So that is what's happening with people. The ego is like someone who's falling down a cliff, who will cling and hang on to anything within reach. So anything in a desperate attempt to grasp and reach and hold on to is used as an act out. Sexualizations, falling in love, in quotation marks, anything, identification with religion or with a certain persona or personality, with criminality even, okay, which is really bad, because then that is being perpetuated to their following generations. This is all really, really serious. We need to look at all of that, okay? It's time to look at all of this. It's time to look into our own minds. Paul will never look into himself. When I have a moment of stern lecturing him, which happens occasionally, then he sits there with a blank face. He knows I'm right, but he doesn't want to acknowledge it. So he's in this limbo situation then. He knows I'm right, and but he's not even hanging his head down. He's just staring ahead. Like he's completely spaced out. Because he doesn't want to face it. He doesn't really want to work on it. And then when I'm done with my rant, I walk away, I do something else, I cry it out in another room, because he triggers me a lot. I'm not just a lot, but a whole lot. A whole freaking lot. Okay? And it's very difficult. It's very, very difficult. This is not a picnic, this existence here. And we don't see eye to eye in fixing things, dealing with problems. It is an awful struggle. It's not easy at all. But it is what it is. This is my soul school. Okay, it is what it is. So, but I am really looking into everything. I leave nothing untouched. Okay, I leave no question untouched with this. When I first saw about that case, I thought the poor parents, there must be hell. And then the more I looked into it, the more I recognized my own mother, the more I saw, the more I worked on myself psychologically, the more I'm able to see right through people. And what I see in their facial expressions is that they're putting up a big facade there. I see guilt in them. Those are not completely callous people. They're not on the level of David Payne, but they are on the level of my mother, like someone with Munchausen syndrome and by proxy, on that level, like the level of Gypsy Rose mother. Okay, so that's that kind of level. It's almost like a schizoid type of level of disconnect and total overwhelm and total. The child was crying a lot and screaming because she saw that they were all lying and toxic. So, of course, a child like her and myself, we scream when we see toxicity. We can't even put our finger on it, but we feel it. And that then in turn is perceived by the adult egos as a threat. And I think they wanted to get rid of their child that was screaming with the tone of accusation, basically. And she even said stuff. That I saw that just the other day. So Paul and baby dog are coming back, and they're gonna be making a whole lot of noise. I have to turn the video off, but this is not the last video I'm gonna be talking about this case. So because this case is bothering me a lot, and if this girl has grown up in a laboratory and is 21 years old now, then she must be suffering a lot, okay? I mean, there's no other way. Even if they didn't hurt her physically, that is traumatic beyond imagination. That can really severely change someone's psychology and course of life. She needs to be rescued. So anyway, I'll talk about this some more later.